What is up? What is happening, peeps? Oh, man. Let me turn these jams down a little bit. It's a little loud. Okay, that's much better. All right, how's everybody doing? What is up? What is happening? It is Monday. You know what that means? That's right, back to work. As if we ever stopped. So, what are we doing today? We are building game assets. Today is a very important day for game asset creation because we are making one of the key pieces to my up-and-coming game. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but for right now, I want to go ahead and get right into it. So I've made a new project here. This is a 1024 by 768 standard size for game assets that I like to use. We're going to go ahead and drop our grid pattern in here, new grid layout. We got our default tile 32. That's exactly what we want. And we're going to hit Control H and hide that sucker for now. We'll bring that back later when we start doing sizing. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So yeah, you probably noticed in the description that we're going to talk a little bit about symmetry today. If you don't know what symmetry means, a brief explanation would be that whenever you have an object where both sides are exactly the same, then that's called symmetrical, right? Symmetry is trying to achieve symmetricalness. Yeah, maybe I made that up, but I think you know what I mean. So a lot of things in life are symmetrical, right? Most everything that we see, like nature, for example, right? Like a tree grows up. Even though everything's not perfect, it's fairly symmetrical. Probably not the best example is humans. Human beings are symmetrical, at least on the exterior, right? Like we got the same thing going on both sides. We got eyebrows, eyes, nostrils, ears, hands, feet. Everything we have on one side, we have on the other. At least that's the way we're supposed to be. Some of you guys may be a little different, but interior humans are not symmetrical, right? Everything's kind of one way or the other. Some things are symmetrical, but we all know, right? The heart is on one side. It's not right in the middle. It's on the side. That means it's unsymmetrical in the interior. So anyways, enough about anatomy. Let's get into asset creation. Let's do some artwork. So what I'm making right now is going to be an airplane. This is going to be a top-down view of a real basic airplane. But we're going to make it symmetrical, and I'm going to show you some of my tricks I use to make that happen. Okay, let's see. I got my favorite pen here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to mess around a little bit. We'll see if we can get some shapes we like. Going to make a new layer here, and we're going to do... So I'm making a selection here. I got the selection tool. Now, if you notice, if you can see this on the screen, it's really hard to get it perfect, right? Unless you hold the shift button. When you hold shift, it snaps it, right? See that? Not straight up, 45, straight across. So right now I'm looking for straight across. So I'm just going to do this really quickly. This is going to be the basic shape of the wings. Now, the wings... Don't worry that if it's all square right now. So let's see, let's make it come down like this. Probably gonna do a little thing like this, and then let's go ahead and attach that. So before we get too far, let me pull up my. I got some crop duster references going on here. So this is kind of the plain size that I'm looking for. As a kid, when I grew up, we kind of lived in the country, and I had these things flying over my house all the time. And as a teenager, you need all the sleep you can get. And when one of these things buzzes your house, and we lived right by the field, so when this thing would pull up after dusting the field, it would go right over the top of our house, and they were really loud. Like the ones, like if you see this kind of biplane one here, this is this is kind of the ones, let's see, this one right here. This is kind of what the ones in my house looked like. This is kind of what I'm going for today. So you can see, this is not the best view for trying to figure out what top down it might look like. I've learned there's not very many pictures top down on airplanes like this. Usually it would be from the bottom if there's a profile, or it's from the side like this. But this helps us kind of get a good look at what we're going for. So you can see there's the staggering to the wings. You can also see that it's almost bowed outward a little bit like this. I don't know if that's an optical illusion or if it's supposed to be like that, but what we'll probably do is we'll probably either go straight or maybe even backwards a little bit. We'll have to see how that looks. But for now, I wanted to get a look at the sides of these wings, and it looks like they're pretty squared off. We may round these corners a little bit, but for now, I think we're looking pretty good. It's definitely got this big gap in the middle here. That's pretty interesting. And I think this is probably, I think we're off to a good start. So let's bring this back up. There's my selection. Now, obviously, this is really big. Our plane's going to be much smaller than this, but if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I like to make things big and then shrink them down, right? The reason is you can add a lot more detail to things when it's big. That's because you get more pixels for the surface area. And then when you shrink it down, it can keep a lot of that detail that you wouldn't be able to put on there as if you had made it small from the get-go. All right, so I want to round these corners off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the select, modify, smooth. And that brings up this little box here. And since this is pretty big, we're going to jack this up a little bit. Let's say 10. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that's about perfect. That's about exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want this right side curved like that, but it's okay. I'm going to show you how to fix that. So I guess what we need now is a color. Traditionally, crop duster planes are yellow. They're kind of a dirty yellow, though. Let's see. Let's pull that reference back up and get a look at these bad boys. So most of them, yeah, most of them are yellow. It looks like they put these blue stripes on them a lot. From the top down, you probably can't see the blue stripes, so it's all right. We'll probably ignore that part. And we just kind of want to go for this yellow. It's a little bit darker than a canary yellow. It's not quite gold. Something in between, probably. All right, so let's go. I think I'm going to go a little darker than this. Drop this guy down. Yeah, that looks good. That's a pretty good looking yellow. So this other side, I want to make a stroke with this color. So we want to kind of match that yellow and then go darker. Just a bit. We'll try that first. Okay, X will flip my colors. Alt delete will fill up my selection. Alright, so we do want to fix the roundness from this thing because it's not going to be round all the way across. To do that, here's what I'm going to do. We are going to... Actually, this isn't tricky at all. We're just going to drop this selection. We are going to cut a chunk of this guy. Okay, I suppose that's pretty much a chunk. Actually, I got a better idea. We are going to drop that selection. We're going to select everything, and we're going to add to the selection with this tool right here. So the shift button, hold that down. This will help. This will let you add to the selection. Okay, and don't worry that this part is looking whack right now. We're gonna fix that up right away. All right, let's go ahead and just close this off. We need to find our original point. There it is. Bam. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and Alt-Delete that, fill that in. And what we need to do now, I'm gonna bring in a guide and see if we can find the middle. So 1024, that means the middle is gonna be 512. So just dragging this using my super gamer coordination, we're gonna drop that sucker right on 512, which means that's this line right here. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, let's drop this selection. Let's use the move tool, which is V. And let's just line this up. That's pretty good. So it snaps to it right here. So 512, we're going to cut this sucker right in half. Right on that grid for 512. Okay, I don't like how this is doing this. Let's see. I need to do fixed size to normal. Control D, drop that selection. And there we go. So we're going to grow this up, and then let's go ahead. So it'll snap to these lines, right? If we let go right there, that's going to be perfectly right on the 512. Oops, wrong button. Not Control Delete, just delete. Okay? So now that has chopped our wing in half, which is exactly what we're wanting. Whoops. Control D, drop that selection. Let's hit V for movement, and let's do an Alt drag, and we will drag that guy right over there. Snap in like this. Now we need to flip it. Alt E A H, and look at that, gorgeous. Control H will drop our grid. So now we can have a good look at this. Make sure that everything is seamless, right? Everything's snapped together perfectly, and we don't want any gaps in there. And it looks like everything worked out nicely. We've got nice rounded tips on our wings. We've got a little bit of a cut in the back, and this is looking good. So there's a few more things we need to do first, right? So this is how we make things symmetrical, but our wing's probably not done yet, right? And we need these changes that we're going to make to it. We need those to be symmetrical too. So we're going to go ahead and back out of this a little bit. Let's back out till this point right here. Now what we need to do, these wings need flaps, right? Flaps are very important to wings. That's how the plane shifts up and down, is by these wing flaps that come off the back of it. Let's pull up our references and see if we can get a good look at these flaps and kind of see how they look. So this is the picture I want to look at. And from here, I cannot see flaps very well. There's big old flaps on the tail wing, but it looks kind of like these upper wings are pretty much fixed. I don't see any flaps at all on those suckers. At least not on this one. So, heck, we don't need no stinking flaps. At least not on our upper wing. So let's go back to what we were doing. And now, because we'll go ahead and redo what we undid. Oh, nope, I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, history button to the rescue. Flip horizontal, bang. Yay, history button. Okay, if you don't know that trick I just did, this little button right here on your thing is the history button. When you click this, it shows you all the moves you've made in Photoshop. Photoshop keeps track of all these. Not a whole bunch of them. You can change the amount that it keeps track of. You can adjust that in the settings. I usually don't even mess with that, just because it's rare that I have to go back much further than 15-20 moves. But yeah, if if you end up screwing up worse than that, then sorry. Maybe you should version your files. That could give you a little bit of a further history without having to load up your computer, keeping track of all these other moves that you made. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back to what we were doing. Now I kind of like the wing straight like this, but just for the sake of experimentation, for science, we're going to, I want to kind of rotate this sucker and see if we can make it look a little bit more like our reference photo. As you can see, it's got a little bow. I thought the bow was supposed to be towards the front. This one appears to be from the back, though. But typically, like you can see on these guys, the bow is... this is a pretty sad crop duster. But we get a good look at the underside of it. So, yeah, the sprayers here is probably some sort of tank. And this one is definitely bowed towards the outside. I think that looks a little more natural. So I think that's what we're going to do. But you know what? I think this wing is too skinny, right? We need to make this sucker fatter. So here's how we're going to do that. Let's get rid of this history. We don't need that right now. Let's see. If I do a Control E, it will combine those two. And then a Control T will get us into the transform. Now I can stretch this sucker a little bit and make it a little fatter. Okay, I like that a little better. Let's look at it with our grid. Let's see if we can get that sucker to snap. So I'm going to hit the move tool. I'm going to arrow that up till it's on that top line. Perfect. Control T again. And we're going to drop this down till it snaps right there. Alright. Control H to get rid of that grid again. Okay, so far so good. But let's see how this looks with the stroke now. Let's flip over to this other color. Let's go ahead and add some layer effects. Go ahead and stroke it out. Wait, no, I want to try this color. Okay, that stroke is way too big. Let's drop that down to 2. That's better. It's a little dirty down here on this curve, but I think once we shrink it down, that'll look fine. It's also a little dirty up here. And I'm not convinced this is the best color, but for now, let's go with it. All right, not bad. Not bad at all. So here's another trick. Here's what we're going to do. I need to make a tail that's going to be very similar to this wing. So what if I just drag this sucker down and we'll shrink it. Alright, I think that is back to center. Let me check it with the grid. See that purple line that popped up right there? That's Photoshop telling me that's right in the center, buddy. Thanks, Photoshop. So I don't know that this will matter, but let's go ahead and snap these to the grid. Enter, we'll keep that selection. Now that doesn't look super bad, but let's go back to our reference and make sure we're on track here. Okay, I need to see this tail pretty good now. I kind of like the biplane, I think. Oh, bye. Ooh. Excuse me. Apparently I'm allergic to biplanes. Alright, so this flap is basically moving the whole back end. So here's what we can do to kind of represent that flap. We could probably just drop this sucker. Let's zoom in a little bit. So if we want a good looking flap, see, that's pretty close. All right, I'm gonna show you another. I'm gonna show you guys another trick here. We're gonna add another layer. I'm gonna fill that sucker. Select, modify, contract. Remember, our stroke is 2 pixels wide, so we're gonna do this contraction by 2 pixels as well. What we're doing here, I'm on my other screen with my cursor. There we go. Okay, 2 pixels. Go ahead and delete that sucker. And Control D to drop the selection. And that gives us some interior stroke, right? But we got to get rid of this outside part. We don't want that. That's whack. So here's the trick to do that real easy. Like, go ahead and I'm gonna go over to this layer 1 copy. This is my tail layer. I'm gonna hit Control click. What that did is it made a selection of that tail part, and I'm still on the layer, the inner stroke layer, but I'm on the inside of it. I don't want to be there. I need to be on the outside of it. So we need to reverse the selection. You do that with Control-Shift-I. You know that your selection is reversed when you can see your marching ants on the outside of the screen, right? So that's telling me that the whole outside of that tail section is now what's being selected. So since we're still on this selection, we can just hit the delete button. Boom! Just like that. Drop that selection, and boom, we have an interior cut on this wing to kind of represent a flap. I like it. But remember, we need symmetry. So we're going to show you another trick right now. Let's go ahead and bring the grid back up. Now this line, remember, 512 is our center point. So if I do a selection around, not a selection. We need to do another copy. I'm going to alt drag the layer down, which will make an exact duplicate. When I do 3D modeling here, you could just move the origin point now to the center line, and then you could flip it right on the axis. There's probably a way to do that in Photoshop. I'm not sure of it though. So instead, I'm just going to hit Alt-E-A-H. That didn't work. Let's try again. Alt-E-A-H. Okay. Not working. Did our layers not work right? No, we got 2 of those. Bizarre. Oh, I know what the problem is. It is flipping. We just can't see that it's flipping because the other stroke line is right out here over the top of the other stroke line. Oh, geez. Of course. I'm so noob. Alright, so I'm going to hit V to get the move tool, and I'm going to just go ahead and move this sucker all the way to that point. Now when I flip, Alt-E-A-H, it should be exactly symmetrical because it was on the other side. Let's drop that selection and make sure it looks symmetrical. Oh man, it's looking gorgeous. Not sure about the squared off lines there, but I think it's probably fine. So now we want to make some more interior lines. We need to make, there's a few things we need to make now, okay? We need to make the chassis of the airplane. which also, of course, needs to be symmetrical. We need to make the tail wing, which the vertical tail wing, like they probably have different names. I don't know the names. I'm not a plane expert by any means. I've been in a small plane like this. I've been in a little Cessna before. It was pretty fun as a kid. I even got to fly it for a second, which was super scary, but I handled it like a champ. Could have took out my whole family. I think I had at least one of my brothers in the back seat and my dad, and then I got to sit in the front seat with the pilot, and he let me take control of the stick for a little while we were in the air. It was kind of cool. Something I'll never forget. But anyways, only time I've been in a small plane. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to combine these two. I like the way it looks. Control E will drop those two layers together. We'll keep it separate from the rest of it right now. You know what? I'm noticing something that looks a little bit off. I think I need to go 1 pixel to the right with that layer. What I'm looking at right here is you see this little tiny nub. That's probably only a pixel wide, but I can see it. Like I can tell usually if something's a pixel off. And right there I see that little nub which tells me it's a pixel off. But since I can also tell that these lines are perfect together, that it's not a height issue. It needs to go over one. Watch. So let's see. We need to Control Alt Z first to undo the selection. We need to make sure I'm grabbing the right one, which is this one. Now V with the move tool, if I go arrow over just once, boom! There it is. Perfect. So now you can see that little nub's gone. You can also see that everything's flush here, everything's flush here. Now we have perfect symmetry. Word of the day, right? Symmetry. Okay, looking good. Next, let's go ahead. Let's recombine those. Control E. Let's select all of those and drop them in a group. We'll get those out of the way. Man, it feels like I'm really having to practically yell over this music. I'm gonna turn this down a little more. Whoops, that's not right. Let's see, where's my music at? Where is my music? There it is. We just want a little music in the background. Okay, that's much better. I'm feeling it. Except I want to hear the next song. Oh, and now it's going to give me a commercial. Dang it, free music. If you can figure out free music and without commercials, you win it all. You win all the prizes. I'm not sure if this is going to be any good or not, but we're going to go with it for now. Okay, back to work. Quit getting distracted. All right, so let's go ahead and add a layer. We want to add this under the group because it is going to need to be under this wing. So this is kind of like how we started off with the wing. Let's make sure we go over the center line. That way, when we cut it, it won't have a big issue. And this is probably a little too far up, but we'll figure that out here in a second. We want to make it nice and fat, right? This is going to be kind of, we're not going for realism here. We're going for kind of a cartoony look. So it's usually cartoony looks, things are a little bit exaggerated, right? Like usually cartoons are bigger in some areas, right? Like their head's bigger, their eyes are bigger, their hands are bigger, you know. That's kind of how you can show that you're not being super serious and trying to be real. You're trying to be more, oh man, what's the word for it? I'll remember it later when I'm off stream. But anyways, this is what we're going for here. We're going to, I'm imagining we're probably about this big. I think this is probably a little wider than I wanted. Let's bring that down to about right here. And we will bring this out. And it's all right that this isn't straight because we're going to cut this sucker. So we just want to finish that selection. And let's move this sucker till it is in a spot where we want. That might not look too bad. But we want this to be straight. So here's a way to do that. Let's get back to our box selection tool. And, Control Z, undo. We want to take away from the selection. So hold Alt this time. And let's go ahead and make a square box right over that. If you missed, you can hit hold the Shift button and make an adjustment. That's pretty good. And let it go. And there we go. Now we know that line is perfect. Oh, I screwed it up. Okay, Control Z, undo. There we go. Back to perfect. This top one, I can tell that's off by a pixel, so we're going to do the same thing to that. Alt, drag, chop. And there we go. Now, it is possible that this line might look a little wobbly. There's a reason for why angled lines look wobbly, and the reason is it has to stair-step the pixels, right? That's what causes that, stair-stepping the pixels. That's called aliasing. If you use anti-aliasing, it tries to minimize that stair-step look. Okay, so we also want to, now notice we're not in center yet, but that's okay because just like the wings, I want to do a round like we did last time. Select, modify, smooth. And 10 was pretty good last time. Let's do 10 again. And there we go. There we go. Nice smooth edge now. Let's go ahead and we're going to Alt drag over the top of this. And make sure we cut those curves out of that side, like so. Perfectamundo. And now we can go ahead and fill our space here. Let's hit Alt, Delete, and that will fill that sucker. Drop that selection, have a look at a little look-see to see how we did. And it's not too bad. Let's go look at the reference and see if this is going to work for us. Reference is that one. Okay. So it's kind of hard to see. Here we are at the problem again of not being able to see the top or bottom of our reference photos. Here's a little bit of a top view. You can see it's tapered. It's kind of tapered outwards and then inwards. That's interesting. But you can see these one little single wing ones. That's kind of how they are. They're small, they cone out, they get wide around the wing, and then they curve in towards the tail. But I kind of like the looks of the bigger biplanes for. Yeah, I just like that big nose on them, right? Like here's probably an example. This one doesn't look like it has too much taper outwards. It's curved here, sure, but it doesn't have a whole lot. It's like pretty big towards the front and then tapers the whole way back. I think that's kind of more what we're going to go for. So let's go ahead and mirror this sucker and see if this is going to work for us. Let's bring our grid back up. Let's resize this a little bit. Let's see. V for move tool. 512 is that line right there. Snap to that. Let's snap it to that top line. Okay, that's not bad. I may end up cutting the tip of this tail off. I haven't decided yet. We may keep it rounded. We may cut it off square. Haven't decided yet. But for now, we're going to keep it. Let's go ahead and Alt drag. Boom. Bring that right over. Alt E. A. H. We'll now get it horizontal, and I can see it almost looks like there's a strip of white right there where it did not quite center properly. Okay, but that's all right. And as you can see, now that we can see both sides, I can see that this thing is definitely tapered probably a little too much. So what we may do is we may make some changes to this. So let's go ahead and back out of that. Control Alt Z, Z, Z. Okay, that's back where we want to be. And what we probably want to do is maybe just square this off a little bit before it rounds off. So maybe from like here, we'll just cut this sucker. Cut it, man. Just cut it. It's all right. If we end up having to round again, it'll be okay. So, boom. Let's see how that does. Delete. Control D. Control click the layer window to make a selection. And let's do select. Modify smooth by 10. Okay, but this time, what we're going to do is we're just going to erase this right here. That'll save us from having to do it multiple times. That'll save us from some hassle later. You know what I mean. All right, let's get a good erase tool going here and just whoop. Okay, wrong side. Control Z. We forgot to flip our selection. Control Shift I. Selection flipped. Erase the corner. Control D to drop the selection. And that is looking a lot better already. Okay, now let's do the flip again. V to get the move tool. Alt drag to bring it over. Snapped. Alt E A H to flip. And look at that, our gap's gone as well. Excelente. And I'm pretty happy now with this. This is a much better shape, right? The other one looked a little awkward. We still got it looking a little fatter than it should be, but I think that's okay because this is going to be all right. We're gonna make a little cockpit in here, and we're gonna add a little pilot's helmet. And we're gonna add some details as well. But for right now, we're also gonna see we're gonna need to do a nose, a tip of the nose, and then we're gonna do a propeller. Okay, all this stuff needs to be symmetrical. Let's add a stroke to this and see how that looks. Let's Control E to combine these layers. And check this out. Here's a trick. Remember we had the stroke on this other layer here. We can hit the Alt button, and where it says FX on this layer, we can hold Alt and drag it to this other layer, let go, and boom! What we did is we just copied the effects layer from one side, moved it over to the other layer, and it copied it exactly. Super convenient. It's super nice to do. We have some weird stuff going on here up top. That's interesting. But we'll be able to get rid of that. For some reason, our stroke is wanting to curve there. That may have something to do with, that was where our curve was when we remade this piece. So let's hide that effect for now. It looks fine there. Okay, we may just keep that. So we may make the tip of the plane a different color, like black maybe. Let's see how that looks. Select that whole layer. Make a new layer on top of it. Get the box selection tool, and we're going to Alt drag most of this until we get just to the tip. Just the tip now. And I want this to be black. So we're going to hit that little button there, and that is going to get us back to our default black and white. And since make sure we're on that new layer. Alt delete to fill it. Control delete to drop it. And all right, that looks, well, it looks a little weird. I think that black is almost too black. Okay, let's change that color up. Let's see if we can make that look a little better. Here's a trick. If the black is too much, right, we want it to maybe leak some of that yellow in, we could just drop the opacity and let some of that color shine through and see how that looks. It looks better, but now I can also see that problem. So, how do we fix that? Let's see. Let's go back to our reference. So, yeah, tip of the color change on the cone is pretty typical. The old biplanes have this big old engine thing sticking out. At least sometimes it does. See, here's an example. Look at that little tiny picture. See if that helps. Nope, that did not help. Can I zoom on you? No. Okay, never mind. Back it on up. Okay, so what I think we're going to do, let's make this engine. Why not? Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of this. We'll just delete everything on that layer with the delete button. And I got another idea to fix this part. We're going to hit Control. Now remember, it's the layer effect doing this. This is not actual pixels being colored by us. This is the layer effect that's adding that stroke in. And for some reason, it thinks it needs to stroke that whole, like this interior part. We want to hide that. And you can't just delete those pixels with the eraser because it's the computer using the stroke on it. But here, I got a workaround. Let's see, make a new layer above this. We're going to make a selection right here. Drop it to where it's just underneath the stroke. Let's get our yellow color again. What I did there is I just clicked on the black color, came over here, clicked on the color I wanted, and it automatically brought it in there. Now if I hit Alt-Delete, Control-D, boom, it's gone. It's perfect. And I want to make that permanent. What I can hit is Control-E just to combine the... it's still got a little bit of stuff here. Okay, let's see if we can get rid of that. Control-Z to undo. V to move. Let's push that up a pixel. Okay, it looks whack now, but let's see what happens when I try to combine. Control-E. Boom. I don't know why, but for some reason, it dropped that thing down a pixel. And when I pushed it up a pixel, it ended up copying perfectly. Okay. Weird, but okay. You know, it also looks like we kind of need to do the same thing on the wing. So let's do that. Let's back out one time. Control-Z. Let's do an alt drag on that guy and do the same thing for our wing. So we need to get that up over the top of the wing. There we are. And let's use our arrow keys for precise movements. Okay, let's see what happens if I do it like that. Control-E and bingo. Huh, that's so weird that it's dropping like that. Let's do it with the other one and bam, perfect. Something to do with the layer style. I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that, but, you know, it's whatever. Whatever. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this so far. I think our wings are a little small for this chassis, right? So perhaps we should do a little bit of alteration. Okay, let's work on the chassis first, and let's see if changing that. Control-T. Let's see if we can change the shape of this a little bit. I kind of like it sticking out that much. No, we need to change the wing. Control-Z. Actually, just hit this this nose symbol up here, and it will get rid of any of the changes you were just about to make. Let's change the wing size instead. Control-T. And let's bring our grid up so we know we're doing this symmetrically. Let's go ahead and bring that out. Snap it out one time. Snap that out one time. Let's bring this down one time. Enter. Okay. I can dig it. It's looking all right. Okay, so what should we do next? Let's do, here's something we need to do. We need a tail, our vertical tail here. This is kind of going to go over the top of this tail wing. So let's do this. You know what? I'm glad I didn't copy this down. Let's drop that. I'm glad the details we put on the wing I didn't drop down, because I'm thinking now this vertical tail wing is going to it's going to be wider than the gap between the flaps. So that may be a little weird. Let's see if we can stretch this out a little bit. Control T. That's not going to be good. Escape to exit. V to move. Oh, that's weird. But it's okay. You know what? We're just going to go ahead and delete that whole layer. At least for now. Let's just hide it and work on this tail. That might be... The detail might be a little redundant anyways, because we're going to shrink this thing down about 10 times when we go to finalize it. Okay, so tail wing. Let's see here. If we make a... Let's go ahead and make a box. We've got a new layer. Let's add a new layer on top of everything. Okay, our wing is going to be about here. Yeah. Control D to fill that sucker. Let's zoom in so we can kind of see what's going on here. Alright, so we're going to do another round. Modify smooth, 10 pixels. And I'm thinking that's looking a little not good. Let's see what happens if we do more than 10 pixels. More or less than 10 pixels? Let's do less than 10 pixels first. We'll see if that looks better. Select, modify, smooth. Let's try 20. Oh dear. Select, modify, smooth, 20. Maybe that's too big. Select. No. This layer. Select. No, control click. Now select. Now smooth it. And let's just do it by 4 pixels. Yeah, that's probably a little better. Okay, now remember we haven't done anything yet. All we've done is change the selection. So let's hide this for a second so we see what we're doing. And now I want to erase the outside pixels. And this time I remembered Control Shift I to change the selection. And poof, we've deleted just the outside. Control. Let's see. Before we drop that selection, let's taper this guy just a bit. So selection tool, this one, and let's go from about here. Alt select. Okay, remember this is only half of it. So we're gonna go to about here, and let's get rid of this whole thing. Bam. Oh no, I did the wrong one. So I did an add to selection instead of a subtract to selection. We can't be having that. So Control Z to undo that. And let's try that again. Alt is a subtract from selection. So from about there to about there. Ah, missed. Bam. Oh boy. Ah, now I know. So we were doing it right the first time, and this is what's going down. Remember, we flipped the selection. Control Z, Control Shift I. So you can't see the dancing ants around the outside of the screen because we're zoomed in, and those ants are way out over here. Okay, let's try that a third time. Third time's a charm. Alt, click, drag, 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 drag. Bang. Oh no, I missed. Bang. Okay. Oh my gosh, the jaggedness. The jaggedness. My anti-aliasing is on. What's going on here? Alright, so let's do the Control Shift Z once again. Control Shift I. Flip that selection. Eraser tool. I could hit just delete and delete everything outside, but this at the bottom where it did the smooth on that corner, I do not want that deleting that part of it. So in order to do that, I'm just going to manually delete this part. And I don't know why. Soft brush, that's why. We don't want that soft brush. We want the hard brush. There we go. Why are you deleting stuff inside the circle? That's weird. Get that little nook back there. Let's hit Control Shift I to reverse it again. And for some reason, there's like lighter color pixels on the inside. So I want to do another fill and make sure that fills it up. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's hit Control D to drop that selection. Let's Alt drag, V for movement, Alt drag, Alt E A H to flip. And we got a little bit of issues up here from the top, but not super bad. Let's fix that right now. Alright, Control D, Control E. Drop the selection and combine the layers. Let's see. Let's get this guy centered up a little better. Bang, snapped right there. Let's see what happens now if we put... You know, I don't think this is quite ready. Let's do a Alt E A W for the warp tool. I always want to call it a warp tour, but that's not right. So let's pull this bad boy up here like that. We probably lost a little bit of our symmetry there, but you know, no. Enter to keep that selection, and let's drag our effects layer over there and see how the stroke looks on it. Okay, not too bad. A little bit of weirdness going down at the bottom here, but that's, you know, that's probably not that bad. Let's zoom out and have a look-see. Okay, so Z brings up the zoom button, and if you hold Alt and click, it will zoom out. Right? Let go, Alt, click, zooms in. Alt, click out. All right, let's bring our chassis back in. Actually, no, that doesn't look too bad. It doesn't quite look centered. Let's hit V. Let's smudge that over a pixel. Oh, man, that's better. I can tell it's a little bit off. It's centered with the tail now. I wonder if it's this guy that's off slightly. That's about as close as I'm going to get, I think. All right, what happened to the chassis? There it is. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. We got a tail, fin rocking, and we have got... Okay, so we want to add some more detail. The wing is kind of plain. The tail's looking good. The wing is kind of plain, though. So let's see what kind of detail we might be able to add to that to kind of improve things. All right, here's a kind of a zoom in on the wing of a different plane. I'm thinking the driver survived this crash. I mean, it's a pretty nasty crash, but I think he probably did all right. I mean, you can tell there's a good skid here, so he probably landed it, and it crumpled a little bit. It probably hurt, but I bet he survived this one. Crop dusters crash all the time. If you ever lived out in the country back in the 90s and 80s and 70s, these things crash all the time. Super dangerous profession. Hats off to these guys, because it's got to take a lot of balls. Power lines, right? It does not take much to just clip the bottom of your plane on a power line, and that's going to flip you right over, and you're probably not going to survive that. So yeah, hats off to these guys. Way more ballsy than doing a lot of professions. See if we can get some more details on these wings, though. This wing is pretty banged up. Okay, these are all the same pictures of that crash. Let's try to see if we can find a less crashed plane. That one does not have much detail on it. This shows us a little bit of the wing. I think this is a video game. This looks like a 3D model. We definitely got some cool stuff going on here, but that's a little more detail than we probably need. We really just want some lining on the top of our wing. You can kind of see the underside here. How it's got like rivets and like little seams where the metal is kind of bolted together. I think these things are made of aluminum, I believe. Actually, it's probably carbon fiber, a lot of it. But you got to make them lightweight and strong enough to be able to handle what it's doing. But typically, they are not strong enough to hit the ground. This one looks like this was probably a fatal crash. Maybe not, but probably. The fact that there's a couple fat cops over here watching makes me think that, yeah, it may have been a bad one. All right, R.I.P., buddy. That may be the same one, maybe a different one. But yeah, as you can see, when these things go down, they're pretty much done for. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a bad one. Okay, look at this old plane. This is pretty cool looking. Looks like a combination of that single wing with an extra wing added on top. Now, adding that extra weight for the second wing is it's compensated because the extra wing also gives it extra lift. Interesting that we've never seen like a commercial airliner with the double wing though. At least I'd never seen one. Here's a good top-down view. So you can see this one. This is a toy. You can tell that's not a real person in there. If it was, this would be a gigantic fence. But even for like a little model plane, this is pretty cool. We can see some good. We can see a little bit of the detail on the wings here. So I could probably add some flaps to it. Let's go back to ours. So I could probably add maybe some flaps on here. Here's what I'm going to do for that. Let's find our wing layer, that one. Let's make a new layer above it. And let's see where we want the flaps to be. Let's see if we do, see if they're like that, maybe. So here's a trick. Let's see if I can figure out how to stroke this selection. I know there's a way to do it, but I don't do this very often. I thought it was up here. I'm not going to sit around and try to figure that out. So what I'm going to do instead, I just screwed up my bar, and I don't know how I did it. Dang it. Here's the problem. Refine edge. Okay, get rid of that. All right, so I'm just going to do it the old school way, and that is to get our stroke color. Bang. Alt delete. Select modify contract by 2 pixels. Delete. Control D. We're going to make a selection of the wing by control clicking the window. Control Shift I to inverse that selection. Go back to our detail layer. Is not that one, it's this one. Okay. And we're going to make sure to select that layer, and we're going to hit the delete button, and that will get rid of everything we don't want. Control D to drop the selection, and that actually doesn't look too bad. Looks okay. So let's go ahead. We're going to leave that for now. We're not going to mirror it yet. We're going to go ahead and make some more detail, and we're going to mirror all of them at the same time. So let's make a new layer above that one. I'm not real happy with the stroke on this wing. We may redo that manually at some point too. How we're doing on time? Oh, we got plenty of time. So let's see if we can let's add some more detail here. Let's bring a box down here. Let's see what that does. Kind of section off the wing here a little bit. Okay, Alt delete to fill. Select modify. I wish there was a redo modify. Contract by 2 pixels. You can't see this window, it's over on my other screen, but I'll drag it over here. So this is the window that pops up. Contract by 2 pixels, okay. Delete to get rid of everything on the inside. Control D to drop the selection. Make a new selection with the wing. Control Shift I to flip it. Make sure that we're on the right layer. We are. And delete to get rid of everything we do not want. To Control D to select it. And that actually doesn't look too bad. Perhaps we should do maybe a little more like that. Let's do one across the center here. Okay, make a new layer. We'll combine all these layers here at one point before we do the flip. But let's go ahead and do a box about here. Control delete. Select, modify, contract, yes. Delete. Control D to drop. Control click on the wing to select the wing. Control Shift I to flip the selection. You're getting the hang of this, aren't you? You know what's going on. Except I barely caught myself. We made a mistake. We are not using the wing to cut out this detail. We need to do the chassis this time. So if I hit Control click on that, it'll change the selection to the chassis. Now we do the Control Shift I. Now we hit delete. Now we have a nice line on the interior of our chassis. Control D, drop the selection. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what if we put a seam down the middle? You think a seam down the middle would look okay? Maybe. I think it would probably definitely have seams that would kind of go widthways. Let's do that first. We could do two of these at the same time here. Okay, that one, I like that one. I'm going to drop that down here by the chassis. And we're going to go back up to where it says layer 5 here and make a new layer. We're going to do the box again. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter if that's in the middle or not, as long as the edges stretch over both sides. Alright, Alt delete to fill. And just like before, we're going to do select, modify, contract by 2, delete, Control D, click on the fuselage, Control Shift I to flip. Man, they need a better hotkey for that. Things that you use all the time should have like one button hotkeys. I mean, come on, Photoshop, you're not using that whole keyboard. Why the freaking 3 and 4 button hotkeys? The one I use a lot is to make, when you have a bunch of layers visible and you want to make them all into one layer, it's a 4 button hotkey. 4 buttons. Redonkulous. Tell me they were out of 3 button hotkeys? They had to make a 4 button? Okay, delete. How's that look? Control D. That doesn't look too bad. Especially now that, since we're going to have the little cockpit here, it's going to look good. Let's go ahead and do that now. Let's drag that line back down to the fuselage ones. Okay, so for this guy, we are going to do an elliptical marquee tool. We do not want to use our round one here. We do not want to be on that same layer. Let's go up one and make a new one. So the cockpit is usually back a little bit from the front of this. So we kind of want to go with an oval. And if it's not straight, it's all right. If it's not in the middle, it's all right. I'll show you why. Alt delete. And actually that does not look too bad, except we don't want it to be that color. Here's what we're going to do to fix that. We want the stroke to be that color though. So we're just going to keep that there. I'm going to make a new layer on top of this one. I'm going to do the select, modify, contract by 2. And then I'm going to change this color. So let's go ahead and change the yellow one. We're going to make this thing even darker than the last one. About there's probably good. Let's see what happens when we do that. Control D. Kind of hard to see that stroke, but it's all right. We're going to make our pilot in there. So we'll be able to kind of see a little better. Let's look at the reference. Let's kind of look at this biplane hatch. Let's go back up to that biplane. That's got interior. These all have interior. Okay, so maybe we'll do some windows instead. Let's see what'll happen if we do that. Okay, let's get rid of this layer. And we will get rid of our oval as well, because we're not going to do the old school open cockpit Red Baron type. We're going to we'll get rid of both of those ovals. We're going to do a more boxy type of cockpit here. So we want to go back to our squared selection tool. We'll go under the wing a little bit. That's not too bad. We can center this up a little better later. Let's hit X to flip the color, Alt delete to fill. That's not right. Control Z. Control delete to fill? Nope, that's not right. Oh, I forgot. We got rid of the yellow color. So let's get back to the yellow color. Our stroke right now is the lighter yellow. So let's flip. Let's get that, and let's grab that yellow again. Now let's Alt delete. Yeah. Let's hit Control D to drop. And let's drag that layer style over and see what happens. Okay, not too bad. So I'm gonna make a layer underneath this one by hitting Control New Layer. We're gonna get this tool, and what we want to do is kind of make some windows. So we're gonna kind of come down like this, make that guy can go straight up. And it's going to be underneath that square, so it doesn't matter that that's not flat all the way. And fill that layer with, oops. It's a hidden layer that we need to make. Okay, that's a good clean layer, but it was hidden. Alt delete. Did you work? Oh man, I made that box on top of the stroke. Oh, okay, that's a problem. We need to back out. Control D to drop selection. Control Alt Z. Okay, there we go. Now I'm back to where I made the box for the cockpit. And we need to go up a layer. Bang. Now fill that sucker. Now add the stroke to it. Drop the selection. Okay. Now that's separated. Now we can draw underneath it. Okay, so we got a frame here. So we're going to say it's going to come down like this. My epic music stopped. Let's see if we fix that. After these commercial messages. Okay. Good enough. Alright. Where were we? We're making windows for the cockpit, of course. Okay, we need to make our new layer. Control, we want to go under that, so Control click the new layer. Alt delete the fill. Control D to drop. Alt drag the layer effect to add the stroke. Okay. Doesn't look too bad. I want to see if I can make this sucker a little rounded though. By pulling this out. Oh, that's going to be whack. That's going to be whack. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think we're making a disaster here. Oh yeah. Control Alt Z. Let's do a Control T. I don't know what happened, but it was not what I wanted. Okay, Control T. Okay. There we are. Let's rotate this guy and bring it out about here. And let's drag this guy around a little bit because we want it to make. Use the arrow keys to get pixel perfect. Alright, so what I'm doing here is hitting the transform button, and I want to rotate this guy on this axis right here. So I'm going to drag this guy right to that point there. Now when I rotate it, alright, exit, undo that. Kind of like where this is going, but kind of not as well. Huh. I kind of want the bottom, I want this left edge of this window to look like that, but I do not want the right edge or the top edge to look like that. So, what I'm going to have to do is we're going to add to the selection. We are going to Z to get on in there. Get on in there close so we can see what's going on. And we are going to add to this selection with this box tool here. Right in this corner. Remember, hold shift because we're adding to this selection. And watch this. Alt, delete, and bang. Did it. Sort of. Control D. V. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. Now let's see what happens if we make another layer like this and we flip it vertically. Alt E A V for a vertical flip. And let's get the move tool. Let's drag this sucker up like that, maybe. Yeah. Okay. That's looking pretty dang good. Let's see if we can combine these two layers now with Control E. And let's do an Alt drag of that sucker and bring it over here. Alt E A H. Horizontal flip. Okay, it's snapped right there. That looks about perfect. Okay, so underneath this layer, we're going to make a new copy. I'm going to make this box selection tool, and we're going to try to go from corner to corner here, like so. And we're going to hit Alt, delete the fill. I'm going to drop this down a little more. Drop the layer down, that is. Make sure we're underneath everything. Okay, it's already filled. We need to drag the layer over there, and that will give us our stroke on the bottom. Control D to drop. V to get the selection tool, because this one, not that one, this one is not quite perfect there. Oh no, I'm laggy. What's going wrong? interesting. It looks better when I push it up. Let's see if I push this other one up. Not that one. Bring that one down. This one? No. This one. Yes. Bring you up, up, over, down. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, let's make a box here. This will help us see how symmetrical we are. See, this guy needs to be underneath it all. About right here. Okay, made a new layer. We're going to make our box from here to here. Alt delete. And drag the layer style. Control D. Okay. Not too bad. Let's zoom out a little bit and see how this looks here. Pretty solid. I think the colors need to change on the cockpit a little bit. Give it some more depth. And to show that it's got windows. And we kind of need to make up more of a frame. So we're going to do some interior selections. Alright, so we'll make it look like the yellow part is actually a frame. That's a little too narrow. Let's make that wider. Oh dear. Alright, we can fix that. By squaring this off, subtracting, bang. Let's just center this a little better. I want this to be bigger. So let's go ahead and scrap this one. Control D to drop. Let's try this again. Back to the selection. That's probably good there. Click. 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 Boom. Yeah. Alright, let's see what happens if we use our stroke color for this. We on the right? We are not. There's our window. Let's see how that guy looks. You know, I'm almost wondering if this window needs to kind of taper. That's probably fine. I think that'll work. The thing with this cockpit is I'm not going to be able to do a scarf animation, but that's probably alright, because that was probably going to be a little tricky anyways to make it look good. So I don't mind. There will be no scarf animation. Another idea is this window needs a stroke. Let's find that window there. There it is. Drag that up to there, and bingo! Bingo was his name-o. Yeah, okay. Not too chabby. Okay, I want to get rid of these stroke lines here. The easiest way to do that is going to be... Oh man, look at how whack that is. Let's see if we can fix that up while we can see this. V. Looks pretty good. I hear my monsters are starting to stir upstairs, so we're gonna have to finish this up pretty quickly, so I can go take care of them. Let's put the roof back on. I think this roof is not centered properly. That's gonna have to do. Okay, I need to make a new layer. We want to get rid of this stroke here, so we're just gonna cover it. Not sure I like that. Undo. Drop selection. Let's just clean it up a little. Oops. Alright, what I'm doing is I'm actually just drawing yellow over the top of that. Oops. Wrong button. Oh, much cleaner. All right. All right, so we want some more windows in here. And you know what I kind of want? I kind of want a second stroke line here. 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 And Control Delete. Oh, wrong one. Control Z, Alt Delete. Select, modify, contract to delete. How's that look? Not gonna lie, that looks kind of whack. Let's see if it helps if I move it over. No. Can that help it? Maybe. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it doesn't quite look symmetrical, that's for sure. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that. Now, we really need some more windows in here. I was hoping to finish this guy today, but we're starting to run a little low on time. So I think what we might do is we may come back to this tomorrow and finish up. I need to go make sure my monsters aren't eating each other, and we'll come back to this. So that's how we're looking so far. Not too bad. Need some more windows. It's going to need a prop. We need a little bit more detail lines in there. But so far, I think it's looking pretty good. I think we're going to go ahead and stop this here. So what we'll do is tomorrow I'll pick this up again, and we'll finish this off, and then I'm going to put it in the game, and we will test it out and make sure it's looking. All right, so thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all hanging out for a good hour and a half. Pretty happy with what we got done today. I think this is going to make a pretty sweet looking plane. I'm super excited to get it in the game and see how it looks with the other graphics. And I think that's all I got to say about that. So appreciate you sticking by. If you got any questions, feel free to type those in the comments. And when I get a chance to review those, I'll let you know, man. If you got any questions with Photoshop or game development in general, feel free to ask that too. If I have any idea of the answer, you know, I'll be straight up with you, right? If I don't know, I'm not gonna try to, you know, pretend like I know what's going on. I'm not gonna bullshit you. I'll let you know right away if I have no idea. Yeah. So, anyways, peace out.